The Walking Dead Season 2 is an amazing sequel to follow up the first game, and at one point, I said that this was my favorite game in the series. This game is great, but I believe the first one is better than this one. I'll be referring to the last game in this video, and actually for the rest of the series, I'll be talking about the previous episode. I'm going to keep this intro pretty brief considering I said the criteria in the last video, so without further ado, let's start with episode 1. Playing as Clementine now, you begin episode 1 8 months after Lee's death, but you have some friendly faces with you, Omid and Krista. Krista is pregnant, and her and Omid talk about names for the child right before you guys go to clean yourself up in an old forest restroom. Omid and Krista go to the men's while you go to the women's. You can immediately tell that the gameplay is more refined, giving you a speed walk button. I'm going to mention this now, but Season 2 is a lot more fast-paced than Season 1, which for some is great considering there's a lot less walking around. While cleaning yourself up, you drop your water and are forced to go into a stall to grab it, leaving your gun on the counter. A woman named Michelle goes into the room and grabs the gun and then proceeds to search your bag. You make a noise which gets you spotted, and after she talks to you while searching through your stuff, Omid comes in the room and makes a noise, prompting him to get shot by Michelle. Krista then comes in and shoots Michelle. 16 months after Omid's death, you and Krista, who presumably had a miscarriage, are sitting by a fire in the rain. Tell how worn down from life she is, and after going into the woods for a look for firewood, you proceed to find things to burn. A picture of Lee, actual firewood, and a drawing of Duck, Kenny, and Katja. You hear noises from a group interrogating Krista, and you get the option to try to distract them or sneak away. Either way, Krista ends up dying. Wow, 15 minutes in, and all characters except Clem from the first game are gone. A man from the group proceeds to chase you, and after tussling with him, he gets killed by walkers, and you tumble down into a river. After washing up on a riverbank, you meet a dog named Sam, and after he bites you, well, let's just say he runs away. After laying down next to a rock, walkers start coming after you, but you get saved by two men, Pete and Luke, who are fantastic characters in the series. Pass out, and when you wake up, you are surrounded by Luke and Pete's group, who consists of Alvin and Rebecca, who is pregnant, Nick, who is Pete's nephew, and Carlos and Sarah, who are father and daughter. They don't believe that your wound is a dog bite, so they put you in a shed while they wait until the morning to see if your bite was a walker bite. You decide to go fix up your wound yourself, so you escape the shed and go get makeshift supplies from their house. While hiding from Rebecca, she says to herself that the baby is not his, which we'll find out later what that means. You then escape the house and go get back to the shed, where the most squeamish part in the whole series happens. You have to stitch yourself up while hearing Clementine screams from pain. After being done, a walker comes in the shed and attacks you, forcing you to kill it. The group comes to the shed and they finally let you in the home. After giving you food, Luke makes small talk, which helps build his character. Pete also tells you that you're going fishing in the morning. When you get to the river, you find the same group that killed Krista, except they're dead. Well, you find one of them alive for a few seconds, actually. A walker then bites Pete on the ankle, and more of them show up. You then get the choice to go with Nick or Pete. I chose to go with Pete, and the episode ends there. Episode 1 is a fantastic start to Season 2. It has a faster pace, which I find much more engaging. The characters are just as good as the ones from the first game. So, I'm going to keep my thoughts pretty brief for this episode, so I'm going to give episode 1 an 8 out of 10. I think that episode 2 is one of my favorites in this game. It's once again fast-paced, and it's overall just a fun episode to play. Episode 2 begins with you and whoever you went with at the end of episode 1, trapped in a cellar or truck. I'm just going to talk about Pete's version, considering that's who I went with in my game. He debates chopping his leg off and then takes a hit of a cigarette. You fall asleep, and when you wake up, Pete's in a horrible condition, but he offers to make a distraction so you can get back to the house. When you get back to the house, Carlos asks you to distract Sarah while the group looks for Pete and Nick. While bonding with Sarah, a man shows up at your door and tells you that his name is George. You find out later that his real name is Bill Carver. After searching your house, he makes it obvious that he knows your group, and when the group gets back, they explain who Carver is to you and that they escaped his camp long ago. The group then goes to find Pete, and when you do, he has a bullet in his head, implying that Carver and his group killed him. You eventually find a ski lodge, but in order to get there, you have to cross a bridge. While on the bridge, you have a scare with some walkers, and then you and Luke meet Matthew. He's a nice guy who offers your group some food, but then Nick comes out of nowhere and shoots Matthew off of the bridge. The group crosses the bridge and then gets mad at Nick because of how irrational he was being. You head up to the ski lodge, and then Luke forces you to climb something to scout out what's happening. You see multiple flashlights down by the woods, and then you hear a commotion at the front of the ski lodge, and when you get there, you find Kenny rocking a sick beard now. And I feel the need to add how powerful this feels. As far as you knew, everyone from the first game is dead, but then when Kenny comes back, it feels so perfect. Couch for a group and head inside the ski lodge. After catching up with Kenny, you meet Walter, who is partners with Matthew. You also meet Sarita, who is Kenny's new girlfriend, who welcomes right up to you. Dinner's ready, you get the choice to sit by Kenny or sit by Luke. Either way, there's a little feud between Nick and Kenny. Walter takes you outside and you two have a great bonding moment. Kenny then comes out and you three check the windows, but then you see a woman named Bonnie spying on you guys. Walter, being a nice guy, gives Bonnie food and she leaves. Walter then finds out that Nick killed Matthew and you get the option of basically keep Nick alive or let him die. Walkers show up due to the wind turbines noise and Nick gets attacked, prompting Walter to save him or let him die. Gunshots from the woods start shooting walkers. You find out it's Carver, Bonnie, and his group after they hold everyone hostage. You get the choice to go find Kenny or stay with Alvin and Rebecca. After Kenny shoots one of Carver's members, he proceeds to shoot Walter and then grabs Alvin, giving you the option to let him die or save him. Kenny eventually turns himself in, and the episode ends after they start putting you in trucks so they can take you back to their camp. Overall, I like this episode, but there isn't much to say off the top of my head. So, I'm just going to give this a very solid episode, a 8.5 out of 10. You're soon going to find out that I like all of these episodes, and I absolutely love episode 3. I love the concept of characters being miserable, and that's all it's going to be from now on. Begin episode 3 by being in a moving truck with Kenny, Sarita, Sarah, Carlos, and Rebecca. Kenny wants to escape, but everyone says that it's not a good idea. You eventually get out of the trucks and then are escorted to your new home. If you kept Alvin alive, he gets escorted to Carver's main HQ. It's also shown that Sarah doesn't know how the world works, unlike you, when she gets separated from her dad. When you get to the prison, you meet Reggie, a man who lost his arm and is also a total suck-up to Carver. In the cell, there's also Mike and Jane, but we'll learn more about them in episode 4. In the morning, Sarah interrupts Carver's speech about a walker that's coming, which prompts Carlos to be forced to slap Sarah. You get forced to work with Bonnie, which establishes her character a little more. She also gives you a jacket so that you can withstand the cold. You then have to go do some work with Reggie and Sarah is a mess after what her dad did, and then you get the option to help her with her work or focus on your own work. Either way, Carver gets mad and throws Reggie off of the roof. You then get forced to deliver some supplies to Kenny and Mike, who are fighting. Walkers then breach inside the room, and you get saved by Troy, who is one of Carver's goons. While heading back to Bonnie, Luke surprises you and makes a plan for everyone to escape. Carver then wants you to meet him inside of his office. Now, there are only 3 characters who get the luxury of having their own segment in this whole series. Michael Madsen is the person who voices Carver, as well as Finn for Mob of the Dead, which is pretty cool. Carver is the first real villain in the Walking Dead games, and he even stands out as the best one. Carver is a scary, brutal man, yet he's nice to Clementine and even tries to relate with her. I think I love Carver just because of the little we see of him. He's only in the story for about 1.5 episodes, yet he feels so developed. He is also the father of Rebecca's child. Carver is a smart, scary, controlling person, yet you can see what his motives are. I love a villain who you can relate to, and Carver does it perfectly. We head back and the group talks about a plan to leave using the speaker system as well as using... Walker gets to escape, what a shocker. You go get 2 radios so that you can give Luke one in the morning. You go to do your chores, Bonnie snatches you, and all that you get out of her is that she wants to help you escape. When you go to deliver the radio, Luke isn't there and you get taken by Troy back to the prison. When you get back to the prison, Luke has been caught, and then Carver proceeds to beat the living hell out of Kenny after Kenny took the blame for having the radio. Bonnie eventually tells Carver to stop. In the night, Kenny's eye is destroyed, and Bonnie tells the group that they have to leave tonight, and so you go into Carver's HQ and turn on the outside speakers, and if you kept Alvin alive, he sacrifices himself so that you can escape. When you go to the area you need to go, Carver is holding up the group. You proceed to jump on him, and the group proceeds to overthrow him. While talking, Kenny shoots Carver in both the knees, and you get to see one of the most brutal deaths known to man. You get the option to watch him die or leave him. While outside, and after you cover yourself in walker guts, Troy proceeds to hold the group, but Jane shoots him, and let's just say she shot him in the thigh and not the other spot. He then dies by walkers as the group escapes. Carlos gets shot in the neck and then eaten by walkers, and the whole plan falls through. Sarah runs into the woods, and Sarita gets bit, giving you the option to chop her arm off or kill the walker, and the episode ends right there. I love the progression in this episode and how it feels like you've been in the facility for weeks when it's actually just been 2 days. I love Carver and the feeling of being inside the store with everything being so eerie. Overall, my rating for episode 3 is a 9.5 out of 10. I absolutely love this one. Wow, I absolutely love seeing back-to-back bangers of episodes. I love episode 4, and it's a great transition to episode 5. I love how this episode teaches Clementine how to be a better survivor and make decisions better. If you want to, you can pretty much classify this episode as filler, but it's not a boring mess like season 1's episode 4. I want to take a quick moment to talk about the episode titles themselves because they are just fantastic. The titles give you a first thought of what the episode is going to be like. For example, Episode 3, A Long Road Ahead from Season 1. It's a great way to say what's going to happen or show a key point without giving a description. Season 3 gives descriptions for its episode and feels less impactful because of that. We begin episode 4 right after episode 3 with everyone being in shambles. You eventually make it out with Rebecca and Jane, and you can tell Rebecca isn't doing okay with the whole pregnancy thing. After Jane talks about her sister for a split second, you get to the meetup spot, and Monty, Mike, Kenny, and dying Sarita are there. When you talk to Kenny, we officially have entered the insane Kenny phase of his cycle. He blames you for Sarita being bit and then tells you to leave both of them alone. You and Jane decide to go look for Luke, Sarah, and Nick if you kept him alive. After searching some walkers and talking with Jane, you hear Luke and Sarah in a nearby motorhome. If you kept Nick alive, you find him stuck in a fence as a walker, and you proceed to put him down. Jane then gives some tips with walkers. One is to use items like knives, and the other one is to kick a walker to the ground and then stab it in the back of the head. Eventually get to Luke and Sarah, and you see that Sarah is a complete mess after her father's death. She refuses to move, and the only way to save her from walkers is by slapping her, otherwise she gets left behind and dies. When you eventually get back to the meetup spot, you talk to Kenny, and he gives the best scene in the whole game, and I'll just let it play for you.
I wanted to check on you. Make sure you're okay.
She didn't want me to wait, but I had to. In case by some crazy chance, she didn't come back. That beautiful face.
Sarita was a good person. I liked her.
You know what it feels like to get beaten almost to death. Peaceful. It feels peaceful. It was like I was floating away, watching the whole thing happen to me. And then I woke up again, and nothing's changed. I'm still taking a beating. Every day. Duck, Katya, Sarita. No peace. No rest.
Kenny, you're not dead. We need you.
Oh yeah, 'cause I've done so great with everything else in my goddamn life. Why the hell couldn't Carver have just finished me off? Obviously, I ain't helping anyone by being here.
That's not true. You help me all the time. I need you.
I've seen you take care of yourself more than any 3 adults put together. But, thanks for saying that.
Rebecca's water breaks, and you have to go get supplies for Rebecca. Not much happens when you go with Monty and Mike, other than getting water, and you also find a conservative jacket for Rebecca. You go to a nearby building with Jane. You end up robbing a Russian man named Arvo. When you head down to get everyone, Luke heads up there, and, let's just say she gets pregnant. You get the chance to find out in Season 3, but I'll just say it now. Walkers start coming, and Kenny goes crazy just being on a walker with a crowbar. And when you get up to the gift shop, the whole deck falls where Rebecca has her baby. Kept Sarah alive, she ends up dying after rubble falls on her. Having the baby boy, Jane decides to leave the group, and in the morning the group is walking when you get surrounded by Arvo and his Russian friends. Rebecca ends up turning and gets shot by you or Kenny, ending the episode right there. For a pretty much just filler episode, I absolutely love this one, and I love the way Kenny is becoming unhinged. But overall, I think I'm going to give episode 4, Amid the Ruins, a 9 out of 10. Wow, back to back to back bangers for these episodes. I once again love episode 5. It gives me all the right feels. There are sad moments, but it's also balanced out with some really sweet moments. On the other hand, though, it prepares us for season 3, which I'm not excited for by any means. This episode is really nostalgic for me, though. There are so many parts that just stick with me. But enough rambling. It's time to get into the story. We start episode 5 out in a gunfight with the Russians. Luke and Mike both get shot but survive, and eventually Jane comes back and saves the group. Arvo claims that there's a house of supplies and you decide to go there. I feel the need to mention that Kenny has gone past the point of no return and keeps beating on Arvo every chance he gets because he blames him for Rebecca's death. You eventually take a rest break while Kenny and Jane scope out a nearby structure. Luke explains how bad he feels that he's the only one left from the original group. You then go change Kenny's bandages, and he decides to name the baby boy Alvin Jr., or AJ for short. When you get to the structure, everything feels so relaxing, and everyone except Arvo is having a good time laughing and drinking. One morning, you come across the house that Arvo is talking about. The only problem is that you have to cross a frozen river to get to it. While crossing the river, walkers start coming in and causes Arvo to run and Kenny to chase after him. Also, the ice under Luke breaks, and you end up getting the option to shoot the walker so he can get out, or go after him yourself. Either way, he ends up drowning in the lake. This death really sucks because of how likable Luke is. And fun fact, Luke was actually supposed to live and end up fighting Kenny at the end of the game. Inside the house, Kenny almost kills Arvo because he blames him for Luke's death. You eventually fall asleep, and when you wake up, Kenny needs your help with a truck outside, and after it doesn't work, you head inside and talk to Jane. Jane almost tries to manipulate you into siding with her and not Kenny. When Kenny gets the truck working, he wants to go to Wellington while the group doesn't, and you get to either agree with him or not. When you talk to him inside the truck, you and him talk about Lee, which hits pretty hard. Go back to sleep in the house, and when you wake up and head outside after hearing a noise, you find Bonnie, Mike, and Arvo robbing you. They say that Kenny is too dangerous and that they need to get out of there. Arvo ultimately ends up shooting you in the chest and you pass out. Bonnie, Mike, and Arvo then leave on foot and they're never seen again, and I mean it. There's nothing about them other than Bonnie apparently accidentally killing herself, but that's determinant, so yeah. Passed out, you have a dream where you talk to Lee, and it's another scene that hits very hard. When you wake up, you, Jane, AJ, and Kenny are driving in the truck, and Jane and Kenny are arguing like crazy. The truck eventually spins out and Kenny goes to look for gasoline. Walkers start coming, which prompts Jane and AJ to leave, and for you to split up with everyone. You eventually find Kenny in a building, and when Jane gets there, she says that AJ died. Kenny goes out for a few seconds to look for him, and Jane tries to show you the real Kenny. Fight breaks out, and you get the choice to shoot Kenny or let him kill Jane, but there's more options too. If you let Kenny kill Jane, you get to shoot him, or if you save Jane, you get to abandon her, and the option I chose, I'll explain in a minute. Anyways, it's revealed that Jane hid AJ to show you what Kenny is almost like, making her a villain in a way. I let Kenny kill Jane and still kept him alive, and in doing so, you find Wellington and get to stay with Kenny and AJ or get inside of Wellington with AJ. And the season ends right there. For the flashbacks in Season 3, I'll just be talking about what's going on in my game file to save time. There, Season 2 is officially done, and I now feel empty inside knowing what's next. I think that Episode 5 is tied with Episode 5 from Season 1. I absolutely love this episode so much. So, I think I'm going to give Episode 5 a spectacular 10 out of 10. I was completely wrong. I normally write the intro before I play the game, and I think this game might just be my favorite one after playing it. I love the characters, the music, the location, the emotional parts, and just how fast-paced it is. There's nothing I hate about this game, so I think for now I'm going to give The Walking Dead Season 2 a 10 out of 10. If you want to play this game, it's $15 on Steam. If you have Game Pass, it's free. Otherwise, it's $15 on the Xbox Store, and it's also $15 on PlayStation. Thank you so much for watching. In my next video, you'll watch me fall into misery while I go over The Walking Dead: The New Frontier. Personally believe that this game is peak, and everything after is pretty bland. Not to say that Season 4 is bad by any means. So I'm now going to be streaming on YouTube, and if you enjoyed, please be sure to subscribe and like the video. And I will sadly see you next time in The Walking Dead: The New Frontier. God help us.